Is this the model that will finally bring my layout into the 21st century? Comprehensive testing and review of the Menards Beta 4.5 FP7 Warbonnet on this episode of Toy Train Tips and Tricks. Hello again, this is Mike with Toy Train Tips and Tricks, and this is the new Menards Beta 4.5 Santa Fe Red Warbonnet F unit. If you're not familiar with Menards, it's a Wisconsin-based home improvement chain that about 10 or 15 years ago, they added trains to their lineup for the Christmas season, and they've progressed from carrying Bachmann and Lionel sets to now importing their own HO and O-scale scenery items, structures, as well as O-gauge track, O-gauge rolling stock, and now locomotives. So for their first attempt at an O-gauge locomotive, they came up with this plan of beta testing, where they would put out small test runs of the locomotive, and for a really low price, you would kind of take a chance. And the idea, anyway, was to review it, send the feedback back to Menards, and hopefully to make changes for the future. But of course, there are some folks who are just in this for the profit. So this is the Beta 4.5 version. I think this is probably the last of the beta tests on these. It was an extra large batch compared to the others, which is one of the reasons I was able to get my grubby paws on one. Secondly, it's been about 8 months since the last beta run, which gives them time to make some significant changes to the model. And also because timing-wise, we were right up against the deadline for getting these things ready for regular production to be in the stores for Christmas 2023. And just yesterday, they introduced a 4.5 beta of the Bluebonnet version. So I'm thinking this is probably as good as it's going to get, as close as it's going to be to production run. We're going to take a look at this. Now, I'll be sending a link to this video as well as email comments back to Menards to Ray at Menards. Ray is the pseudonym for Menards customer service. So in this video, if I'm talking to Ray, I'm talking to Menards. If you don't have a local Menards, you can also order online and have them either shipped to your home or shipped to store. They do ship to the contiguous 48 states and Canada, except that there are certain items that, for reasons of different local laws, they can't ship certain items to certain states. So I took the option of ship to store, and it took it 8 days to get to me from Wisconsin, which I think is a little long. And I'm also a little worried, Ray. The outer box seems to be crushed a little bit, so I'm hoping there's no damage on the inside. If there is, this is going to be a really short review. Okay, so it looks like our styrofoam protected it from any significant damage. We will see here in a moment. Yes, here we go. So it looks like between the styrofoam and our clamshell, we really haven't suffered any significant damage. So even though this is a beta test version, you've got the stickers and the presentation just like it would be on the shelf. I do like that we have a quality control sticker. Somebody looked at this on March the 31st, so quite some time ago before they shipped this overseas. So again, that tells me timing-wise that the regular production items I'm sure they're trying to get out for Christmas 2023 are probably loading on the boat right now. So I would guess this would be the last of the beta test. So let's open up the clamshell and see what we've got. We'll need to slice through. Actually, let's slice through the bottom. I want to keep those top stickers intact. And by the way, if you're interested in Menards items, I strongly recommend you sign up for their email list because Menards does have a very rabid group of followers, and items tend to sell out rather quickly on the website. So a lot of things never even make it into the store. So being on the email list is really the only way to get some of these items. Okay, and we have our remote, which has a similar look and feel to, say, a Lion Chief type remote. A little sticker picture of the engine, and Jack the German Shepherd the Menards mascot. We've got a little power switch on there too. That's cool. All right, well, we'll take a look at that later. And here is our locomotive. Oh, it is a heavy one. I guess these are supposed to be traction tires, but they're flat washers. I don't know what you would do with those. Well, we will see. Okay, so in addition to the clamshell, we have a plastic bag, which is a good change. Previous Menards items like the Rock Island Diner, there were problems with the clamshell packaging rubbing paint off, and so adding this extra layer, this plastic bag between the locomotive and the clamshell is a good level of protection. We have got lots and lots of chrome. Now, this has been quite controversial on the internet with folks who have had this. It seems that people either love it or hate it. Honestly, I'm kind of in the camp where I'm kind of non-committal on it. It's not my favorite, but I can live with it. If I get to the point where I can't live with it, I think I could probably, shoot a quick shot of dull coat on there, or even some silver paint to make it look a little more realistic. So here's a comment for Ray. Ray, if we're doing the chrome because it is, cheaper or more durable than silver paint, then okay. If you're doing it because it's a neat feature to make things look better, I would say drop it, because you're probably scaring off more potential customers than you're attracting with the bright chrome. The next thing right away you'll notice is compared to our Lionel standard. This is a 2343 from 1952, and you'll notice, obviously, the Menards locomotive is longer. There is a good reason for that, because this is in fact a different model. The Lionel version is an F3, and the Menards model is an FP7. A regular F7 is rides on the same frame as an F3, and they would both be the same length, just over 50 feet long. The FP7, the prototype, is an additional 4 feet long, about an extra inch, which we've got about an extra inch here. So these are both scale proportioned, just the Menards version is a model of a different locomotive. The main spotting differences between an F3 or an FP7 and a regular F7 is this 4-foot section added right here. Normally there are louvers here, and there's a gap between the porthole and the louvers. So as delivered, there would be louvers here just like on the F3. However, many of the FP7s, as a matter of fact, most of the regular F units, these louvers got covered up by the railroads later on in their lives. So this would be more of a late 60s look than the original as delivered in 1949 to 53, when these things were originally built. The reason for this extra 4 feet is to supply water for the steam generators. On a regular A unit, although some did have steam generators, the problem was they didn't have as much capacity because of the cab, and especially if you had dynamic brakes, like here on the Lionel version, there just wasn't enough room to store enough water for long distance passenger routes. So EMD's solution was to add 4 feet, add a compartment where you could keep the water. There were no FP7B models because the B model doesn't have a cab, plenty of places to store the water for the steam generator. So that is the whole reason for the FP7. It's 4 feet longer, strictly to hold extra water for the steam generator for passenger operations. Many FP7s later had their steam generators removed or re-geared for freight service, and so you see them that way as well, late 60s up into the early 70s. EMD made about 380 or so of these for North American service. There's probably a dozen, maybe 2 dozen still remaining either in museums or on tourist lines. So anyway, that's the FP7. Generally, pretty accurate model, pretty accurate dimensions. FP7s, generally this spot that's right here, was actually either blank or actually had a round tank rather than this rectangular one. But a lot of people didn't notice because the skirting actually came down lower as delivered, and you really didn't see that until late 60s, early 70s when passenger operations were ceasing. Anyway, the skirting would get removed, and then you'd see. So not a big deal there. Okay, so checking some details here. Looks really nice. I really like the portholes. The glass look much better than the original Lionel version. The handrails look, again, better than on the original Lionel version. We've got an EMD builder's plate here, nice detail. We've got fuel fillers and sight levels for fueling up and adding water and checking all that stuff that's there. We have a little notation of water back here. That's nice. We have an F for front that was found on all locomotives. Got a little bit of underspray on the bottom here, but actually you're not going to notice that from the top. You're only going to notice it if you turn the locomotive upside down. So no problem there. We've got 2 crewmen. Nice touch. Looks nice. Cool number boards. So for the rivet counters, 3945 Santa Fe never had any F unit in that number series, but neither did they have an F unit in the 2300 series either for Lionel. So, close enough for toy trains. We've got 2 nice looking horns. Again, I think superior to the original Lionel look here. Really nice graphics here with the nose stripe. I think better than the original Lionel. I do have one gripe here on the back of the locomotive. I just don't like the way they did the door here. I think what they were trying to get at was, a diaphragm between the locomotives or with the passenger car, and that's what this bump is supposed to represent. I think they failed on that. I think they would have been better off doing a plain rear like the Lionel. Just my opinion there. Is it a deal breaker? No, because most folks aren't going to be looking at the rear of the locomotive anyway. So the fan layout is right. We've got the 2 exhaust stacks, which is correct for EMD. They look a little bit on the big side, but again, close enough for toy trains. I think we're all right. Okay, so we do have some smudges on the paint over here. So similar details on this side. Looks good all the way around. If we turn it over, we have twin pickups for our twin motors. Still lots and lots and lots of chrome. Are there traction tires? Oh, there they are. Here in the front and here in the rear. 2 here, 2 here. And we've got our speaker, and we can turn our diesel sounds on and off right here without taking the locomotive apart. Speaking of taking the locomotive apart, it looks like we've got screws here and here and here and here, actually very similar to the way the Lionel is put together. That would probably be the way to take the cab off. And let me check real quick, do our thumbtacks work? Hey, it opened, will it close? There we go, and let's try the front. It opened, it closes. Cool. All right, I'm going to lube it up real quick because I don't trust factory lubrication, and then we'll take it over to the layout and take a look. All right, I don't know if you can see on here because they're kind of tucked away, but right underneath here, we do have plastic, looks like nylon or maybe Delrin, I don't know, gears, white plastic here and here. And that is going to be the first place I'm going to try for lubrication. I'm going to put some plastic safe grease right there in those plastic gears to give me some protection. So to help me reach in there, I'm going to use this Q-tip. I'm just going to take a little dab. A little bit goes a long way. And reach in there and get to that gear train. And then we will let it run a little bit to spread that grease around to the rest of the gear train, to the other side. I probably did some factory lubrication, but I don't know, it looks kind of dry in there. I don't trust it. I'm just going to give myself a little bit of added protection. Don't really trust the plastic gears on this. All right, so now I'm going to do the oil. There's a bill on here, and looking right here on the pickup rollers, and if I can see, oh, what we got right here is where the axle comes through. And is that okay? And then we do have metal gears there on the wheels, but that should pick up our lube as it goes through the drivetrain. So I'm not going to worry about that unless I have to. Okay, as I mentioned before, the remote is laid out pretty much similar to a Lion Chief remote. The battery compartment uses a screw, which is annoying, but is probably necessary with certain consumer product regulations in different states for something that's considered a toy to keep Junior from getting in there and swallowing batteries. We do have an on-off switch on the side. So when you turn it on, you can see that we have power on. You turn forward for forward. I don't have power to the track yet. And reverse, we have a bell, we have horn, and we have crew talk. Speaking of power to the track, okay, Ray, you're going to need some type of a manual, whether it's a printed manual, whether it's a link to a page on your website, or whether it's a YouTube video. You're going to have to explain to many people how the idea of the remote works. People who are strictly conventional operators who have never done anything with Lion Chief may not understand how the system works, or if it's a brand new operator who's never had anything, they may not know how the remote system works. They may not know what a good transformer to hook up to. They might hook up to, say, a pre-war Lionel Model S with 24 volts and blow the electronics. Or they might, tear the locomotive apart looking for the battery compartment to figure out how to make it run. So, assume that once you get these out in the general public, assume that they know nothing, and keep that in mind when making some instructions. It's going to save you some headaches, Ray. It's going to save your associates some headaches as well. So my 2 cents there. So if you've never used a Lion Chief or similar remote system, all you're familiar with is the transformer type. This is a totally different ballgame. You are not going to control the voltage. You're not going to control the train from the transformer. You're going to turn it on, and then you're going to do everything from the remote. You don't have a reverse unit to cycle through, no E unit to cycle through. Everything is going to be done from the remote, and you're going to have full voltage to the track at all times. It's going to make your headlights shine nice and bright, and your passenger cars and your lighted cabooses and things like that, regardless of how fast the train is going. That's one of the good signs. But you're going to have to keep track of the remote. So I've got mine hooked up to a more modern transformer. This is a K-line transformer, Power Chief from around 1998. I would certainly recommend, if you're going to use this, try to find a more modern transformer, something in the last 20 years or so. The K-line that I mentioned, a CW80 from Lionel, an MTH Z750, something along that, or even obviously one of the more modern ZWs or Z2000 or whatever MTH calls them, a modern transformer. If you are going to use an older post-war or 70s type, make sure to incorporate a 5 amp circuit breaker into your circuit, or 5 amp fuses, quick blow fuses, to protect your trains. The circuit breakers in these older transformers are not designed to protect your trains. They are there to protect the transformer. Likewise, with any transformer, if I'm using these modern electronics, I recommend using a TVS diode on your transformer. These are very cheap. You can buy them by the dozen on Amazon. They're like $2 a piece. Really cheap insurance. It keeps any stray surges from derailments or from arcing in the track from getting into your electronics and blowing your engine. All you have to do is just put it across your positive and negative lead on the output of your transformer. You're set and ready to go. So we can turn the locomotive idling sounds off and on. I've got it on. I've got my power turned up to right around 18 volts. I'm going to turn my remote on. I've got the volume down right now, but if I turn it up, now you can start. That's on the lowest setting. You can hear the engine idling. As you increase speed, it gets faster, just like on a real locomotive, and as you slow down, it gets slower. You can adjust the volume on the remote. You can turn it off with a switch here on the engineer's side underneath the fuel tank. So forward, reverse, all we have to do is turn it to forward, and it runs forward, turn it to reverse, and it turns reverse. Let's go very slowly here. And there it goes. Now, before I started filming here, I ran the locomotive in each direction for about 10 minutes with no load on it, just at a constant speed, just to help that lubrication break into the gears. And let's see if we can coast into the station. And there we go. It doesn't have a traditional flywheel. It does have what we would call an electronic flywheel. It's got capacitors in the circuit that help it smoothly speed up and slow down. It takes a little getting used to as compared to a traditional unit with a brass flywheel on the motors, but it's not bad. Okay, so now I've got it hooked up with a Lionel 2343 dummy, so you can just see how the two of them look together. I think it's kind of sharp, and so let's do a couple of laps this way. By the way, when you're adding cars, adding locomotives, make sure you turn the track power off so that you don't cause any short circuits when you're putting cars on and crossing the rails. So turning the power back on. And there we go. And here we go. I'm going to reposition the microphone so that you can better hear the locomotive and not so much my voice. Okay, so I've got the microphone hanging pretty much directly above the locomotive now. There we go with our idling sounds. So let's talk about horn. Okay, so probably not the greatest horn sound. It starts kind of abruptly, ends kind of abruptly. Kind of fades in, but then cuts off to kind of abruptly. But hey, it's a horn. And compared to the post-war door buzzer, it's a toy. It'll work. Okay, so let's talk about the bell. Okay, clearly the bell is more like a crossing gate bell. It's really fast. You'll also, when the bell is going, when you hit the horn, the bell will stop. One sound will stop, the other they won't overlap. Okay, and then we've got the talk button.
The air brake test was good, so let's get ready to move. Roger that, we are ready to roll. Then let's go. Dispatcher, 3945 East is ready to proceed. 3945 East, confirm you're ready. Aligning with track 1. Have a good trip.
Okay, so the crew talk sounds, I don't know how many sounds there are, but that's kind of cool. It's very clear. So I think of the three sound features, I think the talk is the best one. Horn, second best. The bell, it's kind of tinny and it's really, really fast. Ray, if you're going to do the sounds, talk to your chip supplier about getting it maybe a slower bell, tweaking the horn a little bit. But really, is it a deal breaker? No. Again, the horn isn't the best. It's probably not up to Lion Chief standards with Lionel, but it's certainly above post-war standards. So yeah, we'll take that. Okay, and as far as running our post-war Lionel and the Menards together, in here, I would say the Menards might be just ever so slightly taller. I think mainly just because of the curve of the roof is a different pitch. There may be a 32nd of an inch difference there. What I am noticing is the Menards coupler seems to be hanging just a tad low. Probably it's probably a screw to get in here to adjust that, but Not sure. And now we are going to put this engine to work. We're going to add some cars from my 1952 Super Speedliner set. Not all of them at once. These are heavy cars, heavy aluminum with the old post-war trucks, high friction. We're going to add a little bit at a time just to see what we can do here.
Dispatch, I see the signal has gone from red to green. We are moving.
Check. The signal is green.
Let's talk for a second about lighting. As you can see, we have a good headlight. You can see the crew quite well. We have lighted number boards that we can see at night, not so much when other lights are on. It's best in the dark. And we have directional light, the backup light. Just like with the back door, the backup light is kind of a disappointment for me. Yes, some Fs did have backup lights, but they were not located in that spot. That is a doorway, a window between the locomotives. Backup lights, when they had them, would be located either just above the door or to one side or the other. How many people are actually going to look at the back of the locomotive? Not many. It's kind of a pet peeve for me. So previously you have seen the operation at 18 volts. The slow speed isn't very slow, but if I turn the transformer down, I can get slower operation. That is right around half throttle, so that's about 10 to 12 volts. You see it's still enough to light up the passenger cars. We still have our sounds, but we do get a slower speed. So again, going back to Ray and our idea of a manual, it would be a good idea if we knew exactly what the preferred voltage range of the locomotive was. Exactly how slow can we go and how high can we go without causing long-term damage to the locomotive.
Brake test was good, so let's get ready to move.
Roger that. We are ready to roll.
Now, as far as pulling power is concerned, this train is heavy. Even though it is only the dummy and 4 passenger cars, it is roughly comparable to about 20 to 25 modern freight cars, and it is pulling it with no trouble whatsoever.
So let's go.
So clearly this engine has plenty of pulling power.
I see the signal has gone from red to green. We are moving.
Speaking of uncoupling, we have, again, a very heavy train and the knuckles are holding nice and firm. However, the low coupler, because the thumbtack of the coupler does not want to operate on magnetic uncoupling tracks. It can be done manually, but not remotely using a remote uncoupling magnetic. The locomotive is advertised as being able to run on 031 and larger curves. You can see it's having no trouble at all with my 042 curves. Regular Lionel F7s can negotiate most 027 turnouts. However, again, the Menards unit is a full inch longer, and so I wouldn't even try to put it on an 027 turnout. You might get away with a 027 curve or two, but definitely not a turnout. The fuel tank is going to smack the switch motor. And one other thing I should mention, if you are going to take it off to do some work, remember that there are capacitors inside for that electronic flywheel. And so you really shouldn't let those capacitors run all the way down before you open up and do any work, and actually before any long-term storage. So with the remote still on, turn the power off and wait for the locomotive headlight to disappear. And now you have discharged the capacitors and you are ready to go. Okay, so we've got it apart here, and let's take a look at the innards. You can see the twin motors, and we have our circuit board here. We have our crew members, our front lighting setup, and our rear lighting setup. As I look at the circuit board, a few things I can tell here. First of all, there are two inputs here marked DC 18 volt. So that tells me that 18 volt is probably our maximum. So you might want to turn that transformer down just a little bit, maybe run it around 16, 17, 18 is going to be your maximum. So somewhere between our pickups, which is the red and black wire here, the red and black wire here, it goes into here, and somehow it is rectified and comes in here, and this is where the power comes into the board. And it looks like we have an auxiliary input to take additional pickups if necessary. Also, as I kind of trace around here, you'll notice the motors are blue and white, and that comes in right here. And if you look right here on the circuit board, it does say motor. So if you are someone who is really concerned about the slow end speed on this, one thing you might try is, as you see right now, the motors are connected in parallel. They both come from here out. So you could wire them in series. In other words, so it goes from here to one of the motors and then to the other motor and return. So I'm not going to do that, but that's a potential idea for someone if you are looking to do that. So again, here's our two capacitors. It appears that our rear headlight comes in right here on the board, and then this one goes to our front headlight array, headlight and our two number boards. Also tracing it down, this yellow one appears to be to the on-off switch for our motor sounds, and then our little speckled wires here come in. I'm sorry, the switch is this one marked SW, and our speckled one is this. That would be to get the sound to the speaker. As far as the other stuff in here, don't know, but somewhere in here is a rectifier to turn our DC or our AC track power into DC to run the circuit. So the wiring looks robust enough. We have some nice heavy gauge wires. The soldering and everything looks very neat. So no complaints under here. Here, if you do need to disconnect the power feeds to the center rail pickups, for some reason, that would be these screws right here that you can easily access. Yeah, so it all looks pretty well put together with screws and such. So pretty happy with what's going on the inside, with the exception of the plastic gearing. Okay, one detail that I did not even notice until right now when I was putting the shell back together is if you look down the smokestacks, you see these two small holes here. And so is Menards considering putting smoke in these locomotives? That would be pretty cool. Now, it might be a leftover remnant from when they did the Rock Island Diesel Diner with a smoke unit in that. But Menards has been doing a lot with the smoke units lately. They did the Diesel Diner, they did the Caboose Coffee House with the smoke, and of course the Saturn V rocket tower with the smoke. So they've been experimenting with that. If there's plenty of room in here to add a smoke unit, and that would just be icing on the cake if they could pull that off without adding significantly to the cost of the locomotive. That would be so cool. Think about it, Ray. Think about it. That would be really nice. So to recap, in terms of overall visual impression, the model has proper scale proportions and a prototype that has not been overproduced in the three-rail market, yet it's familiar enough to attract those who remember Lionel's classic F3 models. The key points for FP7 identification are all present, except for that odd rear door. There are plenty of small details for a model in this economy price range. Overall paint and decoration are excellent. Even though my model has one small paint smudge, it's hardly noticeable. The model does not represent any specific prototype. In fact, Santa Fe didn't own any FP7s, but it is a good representation of a generic FP7 model. The only real visual distractions are the chrome, really Ray, lose the chrome, and that crazy rear door. The remote feels good in the hands, includes a volume control so you can adjust on the fly without opening up the locomotive, which is a big plus, and the familiar look and operation for those who have experienced command control before. As for the cons, I can't find any with the remote. Good job. As for the important part, running the engine, operation is smooth and quiet. The twin can motors provide plenty of pulling power. The high speed is about right for scale running, but you won't win any drag races against your Lionel post-war models. At 18 volts, the low speed is a little quick, but dropping the transformer voltage to 12 volts improves this significantly without negatively impacting locomotive performance. The electronic flywheel takes a little getting used to, but it does work, providing smooth stops. My couplers functioned properly and held tightly, even with heavy trains, but they are incompatible with magnetic uncoupling sections. Overall performance cons? None, really. As for the sounds, the volume control on the remote is a great feature. The engine sounds are good for a model in this price range. The crew talk feature is fun, and the voices are clear. The horn cuts out a little too quickly and has kind of a tinny sound, and the bell is way too fast. Overall sounds are not as good as Lionel's Lion Chief models, but are way better than post-war models. As for the lighting package, the headlight is clear and bright, the cab lighting is good, but the number boards are a little dim. Directional lighting is a very nice touch, but the rear headlight is in an incorrect position. Overall, the lighting package is good. In terms of construction, the model is easy to disassemble, and all parts are easily accessible thanks to screws. The wiring is neat and robust. The only downside is the plastic gears. Will they last? Time will tell. Overall, Menards has a winner here, and if the production models are like this beta version, it should be a hit. The biggest negative factors are the plastic gears and a sound system that isn't quite up to the level of its competition. Other potential negatives are availability. Menards items are usually low-quantity, one-time productions, as is the standard in today's O-gauge market. So if you snooze, you lose, as they say. There's also been a question of quality control regarding some Menards items. If Menards can prove a track record of good quality with these models and price them properly, I think Menards will have a winner on their hands, and hopefully more cool locomotive models will follow. If so, I may be adding more 21st century locomotives to my roster in the near future. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. If so, please tell your friends and neighbors, and especially YouTube, by giving us a like, share, subscribe, or comment. And until next time, keep those trains running, whether old or new, and we'll see you next time on Toy Train Tips and Tricks.